today for our Knowledge Unlatched Round 2 webinar. My name is Jill Grogg, and I am a licensing program strategist with LYRASIS. I'd like to take care of just a few housekeeping issues before we get started. If you have technical issues, we have technical support with us today. In your chat window, you have a telephone number to call, or you can send a message through chat if you experience any technical difficulties today. We will be taking questions near the end of the webinar. We'll have approximately 30 minutes of presentation and then plenty of time for questions at the end after we finish with our two presenters this morning. I'm very pleased to introduce Lucy Montgomery, who is Deputy Director at Knowledge Unlatched. She is also the Director of the Center for Culture and Technology at Curtin University in Australia. She is joined today by Christina Emery, who is the Partnership Manager at Knowledge Unlatched. We also have with us today Celeste Feather, who is Head of Licensing at LYRASIS. We're hoping that between all three of them, they'll be able to answer any questions that you may have about Round 2 and the pledging process. This session will be recorded today, and you will receive a link to the recording after the session is concluded. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lucy, who will begin our presentation this morning.
Thanks very much, Jill, and hello everyone. So I'm hoping that many of you are now going to be familiar with Knowledge Unlatched before I start, because we're into our second pilot. But for the benefit of anyone learning about Knowledge Unlatched for the first time through this webinar, I'm going to start this presentation by very briefly explaining why we set up Knowledge Unlatched and how our model works. Round 2, which we're now inviting libraries to sign up for, follows on from a very successful pilot which we ran in 2013 and 14. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the results of the pilot before taking you through the Round 2 offering in some detail. And then Christina Emery, who's KU's Partnerships Manager, is going to take you through the pledging process. And finally, we'll finish with some information about KU's plans for future rounds and useful documents and resources for librarians interested in signing up or finding out more about what we're doing and how you can get involved. So I'll start with what Knowledge Unlatched is. Knowledge Unlatched is a not-for-profit initiative helping libraries from around the world to share the costs of making books open access. As more libraries join in, the greater the cost savings become for individual libraries. At the moment, we're focused on frontlist titles, which means that we're dealing with forthcoming books, not with backlists. And by open access, we mean available to anyone in the world to read or download for free on a Creative Commons license as soon as a book is published. Knowledge Unlatched is an award-winning project. We received the IFLA Brill Open Access Award in 2014, and a few weeks ago we received the Curtin University Award for Best Innovation in Education, and we're now inviting libraries to support our Round 2 collection. When we set out to design and pilot the Knowledge Unlatched model, we were responding to some very specific challenges facing specialist scholarly books. In spite of the fact that humanities and social science monographs remain important for academic communities all over the world, sales of this kind of book have experienced dramatic declines. Some estimates suggest that sales have fallen by as much as 90% over the last 20 years. The average monograph is now selling just 200 or 300 copies. Monograph publishers have found themselves caught in a negative cycle. Declining sales have resulted in higher prices as the costs of publishing a book are spread across a smaller number of copies. This in turn has limited the market for specialist scholarly books even further. It's a situation that has got very real consequences for libraries, authors, readers and publishers. Many libraries are struggling to afford books. Authors are finding it harder to get published. Readers are struggling to gain access to the books that they want in spite of the possibilities of digital technology. And monograph publishing itself is marginally profitable at best, and in a lot of cases it's now being subsidised. So there are a lot of reasons for the challenges facing specialist scholarly books, and I'm not going to go into all of them today. But one important factor has been the role of libraries as the key market for monographs. The role of libraries as the main purchasers of specialist scholarly books has left monographs vulnerable to contractions in library budgets. Library book budgets haven't kept pace with the growth in the number of authors publishing new books, and sharp increases in the costs of maintaining journal subscriptions have put libraries under pressure, leaving even less money to support books. And all of that means that the open access challenge has arrived at a moment when the systems that support specialist scholarly books are already under strain. Digital technologies are presenting scholarly communities with opportunities to widen access to content and to increase the impact of their work. Research funders are requiring open access, and a lot of authors are now actively seeking out open access options for their books. However, the models being developed to support open access for journal articles aren't going to work very well for book-length publications. And that's because the costs of publishing a 70 to 100,000 word book are simply a lot higher than they are for a 5 to 10,000 word journal article. High costs of publishing mean that gold routes to open access just aren't a practical option for most authors of monographs around the world. Creative approaches to supporting the publication of open access monographs are needed. And we felt that our challenge was to find ways to help libraries to use their limited book budgets more effectively so that books didn't find themselves locked behind paywalls in a world where the journal literature is very quickly moving towards open access. Which is why we started Knowledge Unlatched. So Knowledge Unlatched has got an office in London. We're very much an international project, and I'm actually giving this presentation at 11 o'clock at night from my office in Perth in Australia. Our partners include Hattie Trust and OAPEN, which both host the open access versions of Knowledge Unlatched titles. All of our books are preserved by Clocks and Portico. We're working with LYRASIS to handle North American library sign-ups, and Disc Collections is handling sign-up and invoicing for libraries who are based in the UK. We also received key early support from the Big Innovation Centre in London, the British Library Trust, the Open Society Foundation, and 3 founding Australian libraries. Knowledge Unlatched is focused on creating a sustainable route to open access for book-length humanities and social science publications. We're working to do that by helping libraries to spread the costs of open access across many institutions globally. Everyone working on Knowledge Unlatched is motivated by a real desire to ensure that humanities and social sciences long-form publications are made as accessible as open access journal articles. And we really do think that efficient coordination can help to ensure that library spending on books supports the widest possible access to scholarship. By working together, we think that libraries can maximise the positive impact of their book budgets. So the basic idea behind Knowledge Unlatched is that Knowledge Unlatched will help libraries from around the world to coordinate their monograph purchases. Our reason for doing this is so that libraries can offer publishers a title fee for books that a community of libraries indicate that they're happy to include in their own collections. And from a library perspective, this is what the process looks like. Publishers offer books from their forthcoming catalogues to libraries through Knowledge Unlatched. Libraries are invited to take a look at the books that are on offer and to decide whether they're appropriate for their collections and for the communities that they're serving. And if they are, then libraries can go ahead and pledge a capped amount to unlatch the books. If enough libraries pledge, the libraries share the payment of a title fee for each book that's on offer. And publishers make a fully downloadable PDF version of books that are unlatched available on an open access license via OAPN and the Hattie Trust as soon as a book is published. The books are being preserved through Portico and Clocks and made discoverable via the usual channels, including Google Scholar, which Celeste will speak a little bit about later. And MARC records are being provided to libraries. The title fee represents the basic cost of publishing a book, including a margin for publisher overheads. Payment of the title fee allows a publisher to feel confident that they're not going to make a loss on a book, even if it's made available on an open access license as soon as it's published. So during the 2013 and 14 pilot, we were able to establish fairly conclusively that publishers are willing to make books available on an open access license if they know that their core publishing costs are going to be covered by the title fee if their books are selected to become open. So in 2013 and 14, we piloted the Knowledge Unlatched model. We invited libraries to support a 28-book pilot collection through Knowledge Unlatched, and the collection was focused on literature, history, politics, and media and communication. The pilot really was proof of concept for Knowledge Unlatched, and we needed at least 200 libraries from around the world to sign up. If only 200 libraries had signed up, then the average cost of each book in the pilot collection would have been $60. But in fact, nearly 300 libraries from 24 countries pledged their support for the collection, and that brought the cost of each book down to just $43 for each of the libraries that took part in the pilot. But the pilot wasn't only a success from a library sign-up point of view. We've also been able to see the impact that open access has had on the use of the books in the pilot collection. So the OAPN platform has been able to provide us with counter-compliant usage data from the outset of this project, and Hattie Trust is moving towards being able to provide counter-compliant usage data now. More than 1,000 downloads for each book in the pilot collection were recorded in the collection's first 12 months online, just through the OAPN platform, and we weren't able to record downloads from the Hattie Trust platform in the same format. So that's more than 1,000 downloads for each book, just from one of the main platforms that we were partnering with. And that figure had increased to 10,000 downloads per book by July 2015, with downloads recorded from 167 countries And I think we're now up to 170 countries, so that number, the range of countries where these books are being read and used is growing. The feedback that we've received from authors who took part in the KU pilot has also been overwhelmingly positive. Authors have been really delighted by their ability to share links to the full text of their work via email and social media, and they've reported that this ability has helped them to engage with the media more effectively. Authors have also reported that having books included in the Knowledge Unlatched program has helped to lower barriers to the use of their work in undergraduate teaching, as well as for adoption as a resource for high school teachers and students. And that this experience has helped them to identify new audiences for their research and prompted them to think about how they might further engage with those audiences through their next publications. So this is a list of the 13 publishers that made books available through the Knowledge Unlatched pilot. All of these publishers have stayed on with Knowledge Unlatched for round 2. And an additional 13 publishers have joined Knowledge Unlatched for round 2, bringing our total to 26 well-respected monograph presses. Round 2, which is now open to libraries, consists of 8 packages of 78 titles from the 26 publishers that we just saw. We're asking libraries to select at least 6 packages from this round 2 collection in order to participate in the second round of Knowledge Unlatched. But we're hoping that a lot of libraries will choose to support all 8 packages. And so far, the majority of libraries that have signed up for round 2 have chosen to support all 8 packages. The minimum pledge needed to unlatch 6 packages in round 2 is $2,643, and the capped amount that libraries would pledge to receive all 78 titles is $3,891. For this round, the average price per book is starting at just under $50, which is based on 300 libraries pledging. As more libraries join, then the average price per book will drop even further. And in many cases, these may be titles that you were planning to order anyway, so this would be a cost saving for your library. The round 2 collection is made up of 6 subject-specific packages focusing on anthropology, literature, history, media and communications, and politics. Round 2 also includes 2 publisher-specific packages, which are being offered by the University of Michigan Press and Duke University Press. The publisher-specific packages are made up of 10 books each from a range of disciplines. The books that are now being offered to libraries in round 2 were selected by the Knowledge Unlatched Library Selection Task Force. Once publishers had submitted lists of books that they would be willing to include in round 2, we asked acquisition librarians to rank them. And the top 78 books ranked by the Library Task Force were curated into the packages that are now on offer. Deductions against additional purchases of the books unlatched through round 2 are also being offered by participating publishers. If a library orders or indicates to us that it plans to order a print or closed ebook format of any title in the round 2 collection via any channel, then the total unlatching fee that's paid to Knowledge Unlatched will be reduced. We've allowed publishers to nominate an appropriate deduction for each title, and deductions range from between 20 to 50% on a publisher-by-publisher basis. An overview of deductions is available on the Knowledge Unlatched site. And I'm now going to hand over to Christina Emery, who's Partnership Manager for Knowledge Unlatched. Christine is going to take you through the nuts and bolts of how to pledge using the KU system. So over to you, Christina.
Thanks, Lucy, and thank you again to everyone who's joined us today. As you've heard, the pledging period is open now and will close on the 31st of January 2016. Simply go to our collections website, which is the first link here, and you can either sign in with your credentials from the pilot if you are a charter member library, or you can register and create a new account if you are a new library. UK participants should register on the JISC Collections website, which is the second link here. When you have logged in, you can view the packages and you can select which packages you would like to help make open access. Here is the overview of the packages, and to find it on the website menu, select Round 2 and Title Packages. You can view the titles in each package without having to log in, but in order to participate and select them, you will need to log into your account. When you click on a package, in this case Anthropology, you will be shown a list of all titles in that package. By clicking on one of the titles, a light box will appear showing that book's metadata, and you can browse through the titles in that package by clicking on the arrow. A comprehensive title list in either PDF or as an Excel spreadsheet is available in our Downloads section, the link for which is included at the end of this presentation. Once you have made your selections of a minimum of 6 out of the 8 packages, you will be asked to declare any purchases of additional formats of titles in the Round 2 collection. You can log in at any time to add this information or to change your package selections by the 31st of January 2016. As Lucy explained earlier, by declaring purchases of additional formats, you are stating that you have bought or that you intend to buy another format, such as print or ebook, of a title in the Round 2 collection by the end of April 2016. It works on an honour system, like in the pilot collection. This then entitles you to a deduction off your KU invoice, and the deductions range from 20 to 50%, which are offered on a publisher-by-publisher basis. There is an overview available on our website. The link was in a slide earlier, which Lucy showed to you. So, what's the timeline for Round 2? Pledging will end on the 31st of January 2016. If enough pledges have been received, the decision to unlatch which packages will be announced in February, and technical preparations will commence. Libraries will receive their invoice in March, and the majority of books will be unlatched in March and April 2016. Some titles have a later publication date, so these will be unlatched later upon publication, because of course we can't unlatch them before they're published. I'll now hand you back to Lucy, who will conclude this presentation.
So, as KU scales up, we're putting further infrastructure into place to enable us to hold the elections for our collections committee. And we're also looking to further involve librarians by asking them which publishers they'd like to see offering titles through Knowledge Unlatched in the future. In future collections, KU is going to be offering more choice regarding how the packages are being assembled and which subject areas are included in the KU system. So KU is also going to consider unlatching backlist titles, but that's not something that we're currently doing, so stay tuned. So we've also included a list of useful documents explaining round 2, which are all available in the download section of the Knowledge Unlatched website. So the link is at the bottom of this page, and we've produced quite a few resources which we hope you'll find useful, both in understanding the Knowledge Unlatched round 2 process, and also in explaining this to your colleagues within the library community. So please visit the website and download any information that you might find useful. As Christina mentioned, I'm sorry, I've missed a slide. So we've got a list here of some useful links which you might find useful or interesting. We've got a video about explaining KU, hopefully much faster and better than we've been able to do this evening on YouTube. There's also KU in 60 seconds and some links directly to information about how KU works, as well as the full Knowledge Unlatched Proof of Concept pilot report, which is a really important piece of documentation for anyone who took part in the first pilot of Knowledge Unlatched and who's interested in our methodology for developing the model, as well as our results. So that's a really detailed document, and as someone who was really involved in setting up the pilot and also in producing the report, I would love it if you would take a look, and if you've got any feedback, please let us know. So before we move on to the question and answer session, we thought you might like to know who the named contacts are if you'd like to find out more about Knowledge Unlatched. So first of all, Christina Emery is always really pleased to answer any questions, and she might be particularly useful for libraries that are in the UK or Europe. LYRASIS in North America is working with North American libraries around sign up, and Celeste Feathers on this webinar tonight, so please get in contact with LYRASIS. In the UK, GIST Collections is also available, and I'm also available, so if anyone would like to contact me directly, then please do. I'm just lucy@knowledgeunlatched.org. And finally, we really like it when librarians tweet about us. Social media was incredibly helpful for us in promoting the pilot of Knowledge Unlatched, and we are genuinely interested in having a conversation with librarians about the project and about open access and about some of the challenges that are emerging in this landscape, which are feeding into how we develop the Knowledge Unlatched model for the future, and also some of the research questions that we're attempting to answer through Knowledge Unlatched research. So follow us on Twitter, tweet about us, tweet to us. We're on Facebook and LinkedIn, and we'd love to hear from you. Okay, so I think we're now moving into question and answer.
Thank you, Christina and Lucy. If you have questions, please feel free to type those into the chat box. I will read those out, and hopefully Lucy, Christina, and or Celeste will be able to answer them.
I can see we have one question already from Patty. She'd like us to put the webinar on our website, which we're happy to do so. So we'll take the recording from LYRASIS and add that to our website. Thank you for the suggestion.
But I suspect that people want the slides because the links are live within the slides. So, so I think that we can certainly provide a downloadable PowerPoint if people would like that through the website. So we'll put that up also.
Okay.
We also have a question from Eric, who is asking if you can address who administers the deduction of fees if libraries purchase a print or ebook copy, and do libraries submit a list of titles they have purchased?
Shall I take that?
Shall I take that one?
Or, oh, no, Christina, that's fine. You can.
Yep. Okay, I'll take that. So thank you, Eric. This is part of the pledging process. So when you've logged in and you've selected the packages, when you click on Continue, the next page will take you to the list of titles, and that's where you say if you're purchasing any of the titles in any other format. And then Knowledge Unlatched will, when they send your invoice, there'll be a second page on the invoice, and it will show you the deductions. So we'll work it out for you, so you don't have to administer anything on that end for that. There's one exception with Duke University Press. They've decided to experiment with the model a little bit, and they're offering you a direct 50% discount when you order the books on their website by using a special code UNLATCH, UNLATCH. This information is on our website, so if you go to the collections.knowledgeunlatched.org website, click on Round 2 and Deductions, and you'll find all of that information there. But yes, we will administer that side of things.
Thank you, Christina. Colleagues at Baylor University ask if institutions obtain their individual usage statistics, and also ask if those statistics are counter-compliant.
Right, so this is a question that I have to take because this is my department. We're currently, so we do have from the OAPEN platform library-specific usage data. However, we're not sure how accurate it is at the moment, and that's in part because libraries have been making the content, the Knowledge Unlatched content, available in many different ways, and some have been using easy proxies and some haven't. So I was actually at the SCI Triangle event a couple of months ago working with a group of librarians thinking about how we might develop a methodology for reporting usage information about open access books more effectively. So that's something that we're currently actively working on, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to provide libraries with some useful information about usage in the near future. So I've got a PhD student working on it pretty actively, and OAPEN are very active in this space. And we've also had a bit of a challenge because the Hathi Trust platform, which is one of our major partners, isn't currently able to provide counter-compliant usage data. So as we work through those challenges, we hope that we'll be able to develop library-specific reports, but it's something that's in process at the moment.
Can I just add an update to that as well? We mentioned earlier, or Lucy mentioned earlier, the overall usage statistics. So an update on that. We haven't published it yet, but we hopefully should soon in the next week or two. So we've now reached 170 countries, and the titles, this is a collection of 28 books, has been downloaded over 40,000 times.
That's from the OAPEN platform.
From the OAPEN platform only. So there's still the Hathi Trust platform, and the books have been uploaded to the Internet Archive as well, and as well to the publisher's own platforms, some of whom have uploaded the books there as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lucy and Christina, for that. We have a question from Lynn, who is asking if you could remind us of the copyright dates, and she's indicating that they're doing demand-driven programs right now with university presses that are ongoing, so she may not know what she purchases until later.
By the copyright dates, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to query that as well. Do you mean the declaration of additional formats? Because we need the declaration by the 31st of January, but the formats, the other purchases may take place until the end of April. So if you know in advance, then you can let us know, but you do have to let us know by the 31st of January, because if we're successful, then the invoicing will be worked out in February.
This is Celeste. Can I just chime in one moment here? Because I think what Lynn is asking is the copyright dates of the books that are in KU Round 2. And I believe the majority of them are 2016. They're all forthcoming, but I know that at least a few of them have already assigned copyright dates of 2015, even though they're not out yet. So it's all forthcoming. It's very recent content. And just anecdotally at this point, we've heard from a lot of the presses that have titles in KU Round 2 that they are intentionally not placing those titles within aggregated collections, going on full faith that they will in fact be unlatched and openly accessible. And they may place them there at a later date, and I know there are conversations going on with ProQuest at least about maybe including OA titles on their platform so that they are fully discoverable along with others there. But again, this is not totally fact-driven, but at least it's our belief that there's not a huge risk of overlapping with content that might be exposed to you in a demand-driven program.
Thank you, Celeste. Cheryl is asking what happens when we've paid for titles that don't get published, that this sometimes happens when we buy a year's bundle from a publisher. It doesn't get published that year, and there's a possible risk of losing money.
So does this relate, I guess, to the possibility of slippage in publication dates? And I think I say as an author because that the chances that the books that have made it this far in the process won't in fact be published, I hope, is incredibly slim. And if there is slippage in publication dates, then it's extremely unlikely, given that these are 2016 titles that have been entered into the forthcoming catalogue for 2016, that the publication date would slip beyond 2016. So I'm not sure if that helps at all. Do you have anything to add to that, Celeste?
I would just say that these titles have been in conversation and under discussion for a fair amount of time now, and if the publishers had any inkling that a title might not get published, I think they would let us know immediately. So I think that went into their thinking when they were submitting titles for possible inclusion in Round 2, and we're close enough now to the anticipated publication date, and nobody has raised the flag and said, oh, this book isn't going to actually ever get published. So again, I think any risk associated with any of these 70 titles never being published is pretty small. We haven't encountered that yet.
And the majority of the titles will be, the publication dates fall between January and April 2016. So when we unlatch, if we're successful in March and April, there will be dates, later publication dates of certain books, and those will be unlatched later. So it's not like there's one set of unlatching and that's it. We will unlatch on a title-by-title basis for any books that are published at a later date.
Thank you all. I hope that addresses questions, and we have a few more that have come in. I encourage you to continue submitting your questions. We have one from Lorena who's asking about Google Scholar. That was the
Celeste.
So yes, I'll take that one. So this is a fairly recent event and announcement, and it's one of those wonderful stories that happens when two people find themselves in casual conversation at a scholarly conference. And Francis Pinter in this case was talking with Anurag Anchara from Google Scholar, and she asked why Google Scholar didn't index books, ebooks. And his response was, it's simply too hard and too challenging. And she said, but what about all of the 2,800, I think it is, ebooks that are part of OAPN's Directory of Open Access Books, the OAB? And as a matter of fact, the KU pilot project titles are already there as part of that collection hosted at OAPN. And suddenly wheels started spinning and the room lit up, and Google Scholar found a very straightforward way to reach out and index these books that are hosted at OAPN, and they are now, I believe, fully included and searchable within Google Scholar. So that was great news for everyone all around.
Celeste, would you also like to, now since you're speaking, kindly mention about the MARC records scope, please, if you wouldn't mind?
Yes, surely. So we're all very keenly aware of the importance of MARC records and good quality MARC records, and I will hand a tribute to the KU people this time around. They really took this to heart and have contracted with Scope, our records creator that has a very good reputation, and they created an initial batch of the records, all, again, they're forthcoming titles, and these initial batches were reviewed by librarians in many countries, and the thumbs up sign was given. These are good records. The question did come, why isn't there a URL yet? And the answer was, well, because there is no book yet, and so there's really nothing to point to. So what's available now is a downloadable set of preliminary MARC records that can serve as markers in your catalog that these things are coming. And then they will be updated, and updated record sets will be posted, I believe, by subject collection, because there are a couple of libraries that are not selecting all 8 subject packages. So we're trying to make this as granular as possible. But again, the records will be updated with URLs that point to the locations when the books actually go live and are unlatched. So there is a great deal of attention being paid to this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste. We also have another question from Eric asking if KU plans to offer a title-by-title selection option at some point.
I'd actually like to briefly answer that together with Angelica's question. When you mentioned that libraries might propose new publishers, are they restricted to HSS fields or open to Mint as well? So in the future, we are going to, I think, further experiment and expand into more subject areas, and also look at title-by-title selection options as well. So this is all for future rounds, not for the current round 2 rounds.
Yeah. And I would just add that the challenge is always for us finding a good compromise between granularity and choice, and being able to offer libraries as much choice as they would like, and as much flexibility as they would like, and also not overburdening libraries with itty-bitty packages. So we did a lot of work in the development of the pilot, and it was really interesting to see that many libraries really preferred to be acquiring content in reasonable chunks and in collections, and so that's what we've focused on for now. But as we go forward, our plan has always been to include as much flexibility in this model as possible, and also to allow for the possibility that libraries might not choose some books. So title-by-title selection's part of that plan, but it's not something we're yet doing as we scale.
I think I accidentally skipped a question about whether or not titles from university presses would be in JSTOR and Project Muse. Celeste, would you like to add anything other than what you've typed?
Oh, yeah, no, I don't know anything more than that. We'll keep an eye on it, and I just wanted to let Lynn know the little detail that we do know that there are 2 titles from Fordham that are part of the current, or it's the I'm sorry, I typed 2015. I meant 2016. Complete used collection. So 2 out of 78 so far.
Thank you for that clarification. Other questions, please feel free to submit those through chat, and we will, or they rather, will answer them. I see a couple of folks typing.
Thank you.
While we're waiting, is there anything else that Celeste, Lucy, or Christina would like to address at this point?
Yes, I'd like to point out the news section on our website. So if you go to www.knowledgeunlatched.org and then click on Media and KU News, there's a few nice little news stories about how the collection was developed, and also about, obviously, the news stories which we just mentioned for the MARC records and the KU research. So there's one news story we haven't mentioned, which is about how the collection was curated, and the acquisitions librarians who helped to shape the collection, they were part of the library task force. So that might interest some of you just to read that. It's not a very long news piece.
Thank you, Christina. Our colleagues at the Smithsonian Libraries are asking, in addition to items being indexed by Google Scholar, are materials also indexed in other discovery services, such as those offered from Summon or Primo?
There are certainly, yes, conversations happening around those topics with the discovery services. Of course, you can't actually build a target for a KU Round 2 collection until we all know that there is a fully unlatched KU Round 2 collection, so you're not going to see anything there yet until we finish this Round 2 process. But yes, those conversations are happening.
There's another comment, at least from Susan, for Celeste and others as well, that she's noticed some overlap coverages in some instances. However, the ability to have perpetual access to these titles after vendors may have updated and removed them makes KU enticing for future needs. Anyone want to comment on that?
Yes, I'll thank Susan for that note too. And as I'm sure everyone knows, the ebook marketplace and the business model array is still in quite a bit of churn. And it really varies so much from press to press about the decisions where to place certain titles on various platforms, aggregated collections, subscription versus perpetual access. And there's no easy answer to any of this, but I guess the point is if you support KU, you know that these titles are going to be someplace permanently and that they're not going to ever disappear from access. And so that, yes, is a strong point in favor of KU.
Thank you, Celeste. Other questions that participants might have for our panel of experts? Okay, I'm not sure that we're having any other questions coming in. Before we conclude, I just want to make sure there's nothing else that anyone would like to add.
No, I'd just like to say thank you for everyone for attending.
Yes, thank you all for attending. As we indicated earlier, you will receive a link to this recording, and we will make sure that a link to the actual slides that could be downloaded will be available, I believe, both on the KU website and the LYRASIS website, and we'll work to make that happen. Thank you all for attending, and thank you, Christina and Lucy and Celeste.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.